And we have talked about this, of course, for many a day. Is this a bit of a day of judgment when we got the likes of Legal and General saying, we're not quite sure about this, we're holding off on long-term investment?
It does seem a bit of a moment when an absolute flagship of the financial community in the UK, Legal and General, controlling £1.2 trillion, £1,200 billion of our savings, our pensions, our insurance policies and so on, actually says something publicly. The Chief Investment Officer says something publicly. And you do get a sense, which I've been reporting for several months, that the Bank of England is now under siege. Yeah. You had a very interesting article from a guy called Professor Jazit Chadha, who runs the National Institute of Economic and Social Research, massively respected think tank, partly government funded, and he said just what Justin Urquhart-Stewart just said there. The Bank of England does seem to have a communication problem. This is what happens when you spend months and months and months telling people that inflation is going to be transitory, when pundits like me and other informed people in financial markets are saying it's not going to be transitory. Yeah. Look at the numbers. And now we're seeing this kind of mismatch, this intellectual error bursting out into the real world, whereas, as you say, the Nationwide, a mutual, the friendly lender, they're increasing their mortgage rates by 0.45 in one bound. Just a couple of weeks ago, we thought base rates were going to peak at 4.5% where they currently are. The money markets now think 5.5, 5.75, a massive change. Yeah,
and just to depress people a bit further, maybe more mortgage rate increases to come through. The other lenders are saying, we're looking at this situation and we can't actually, guarantee that's not going to happen. But what about the other message then from the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, where we keep hearing we've got to get growth going in the economy and we're not looking at recession because the IMF says everything okay. And then the next day turns around and said, well, actually, recession might not be so bad if the interest rates go up, and that's the pain worth paying.
I'm not sure it's fair to say he's saying recession might not be so bad. He's saying...
he's comfortable with it.
He's saying that if you have to choose between ongoing inflation and a slowdown, go for the slowdown. And in the end, if you do have that binary choice, I think most economists, most historians would agree with him. But look, there is an issue. We currently have borrowing costs for the British government that are higher than for the Italian government.
And they're going to go up even higher because of these gilts.
Not to disparage our Italian friends and colleagues, plenty of them in the GP newsroom, by the way. But it's just unusual that a much, much weaker, institutionally weaker government like Italy can now borrow more cheaply than the British government, where, our debt is literally gilt-edged. Yeah. That's where the phrase comes from.
And just to touch on what Justin was saying there, it's all to do with confidence in the running of the UK economy. Yep. And that's starting to seep away.
And we saw earlier this week, you and I were talking about it, discussed it with Patrick too, that the UK government in April borrowed 25 billion quid. Absolutely huge. And on top of that,
a lot of that was on the debt interest.
And debt interest, though it won't all be paid at once. Some of it's pushed into the future. But during April, we accrued debt interest of almost £10 billion. Right. That is worrying because you get in a doom loop. You have to borrow to pay the interest on the existing debt.
OK, a lot of people watching and listening thinking, what should those in charge be doing? What can be done? Now, is it the fact that actually Jeremy Hunt has just got to sit back and wait to see if this Bank of England squeeze, the foot on the brake, is actually going to bring inflation down?
OK, I'd like to end on a more positive note, Mark, because the UK economy is looking pretty resilient. We are on course to carry on growing, unlike, say, in Germany.
Yeah, which has gone into recession.
The biggest economy in Europe. We don't want Germany to fail at all because we trade a lot with Germany. But it does show that the UK economy has got some resilience. We are still attracting a lot of inward investment. I think what's really crucial, though, is that Jeremy Hunt, Rishi Sunak, the Treasury, they have to understand that while financial markets don't like Liz Truss, Kwasi Kwarteng, quotes, unfunded tax cuts, They don't like massive amounts of government spending and borrowing either. We have to move to a situation where we are going for growth. I personally don't think this rising corporation tax we're enjoying is going to raise any money at all. They have to show that they want pro-growth policies to get this economy moving, because in the end, the way you handle debt is you grow the economy so the debt is smaller as a share of the
GDP,
economy.
yeah.
And in the end, that is what will bring borrowing costs down, mortgage rates down, interest rates down more generally.
But for the meantime, tighten your belt yet again. Feel Good Friday to a certain degree, but just transitory.
There's still time.
Yeah, there's still time.
I'll see you in an hour or so.
OK, we'll see what happens then. Liam, thank you for that. And, of course, we will indeed keep you updated on any twist and turn in this.